Thank you, Your Excellency. We are accepting questions from our audience. So if anyone has any question, please raise your hand, and our colleagues will provide you with a mic. Please, your name and please say your name and your question. Please make it very short, because so we can give the floor to everybody, please. Can you stand up?
Yeah. One at a time. Yeah.
My name is Nahda. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the great talk. And from a doctor, a prescription for success. Really, it was inspiring. And I have one question for you, sir. Your journey went through a very difficult time in the world, which is the Cold War. How did that impacted your experience and your journey? Did you had any backup from the West? Did they support you in a way or another? Did they direct their investment to your country? Or you were not impacted by this Cold War? Thank you.
Well, initially, of course, we were very pro-West, because we only knew the British. They were our, well, colonial masters, and we feel very familiar with them, so we followed them. But then the second Prime Minister decided to change direction. He decided that we should be friendly with all countries of the world, and not care whether they are communists or socialists or capitalists or East or West. We decided to be friendly with all these countries, and the Prime Minister himself visited Russia and visited China. China was, of course, looked upon as a communist enemy, but he decided we don't care about their internal politics, but we want to be friendly. And that direction was taken by the second Prime Minister. When I took over, I decided to make a slight change. I decided that we should be friendly with small countries, poor countries, not rich countries. So the priority is A, with our neighbors, B, with the small countries, including the Pacific Island countries and others, and then with the Muslim countries, and lastly, with the British Commonwealth. There was no policy on being friendly with big powers. We were not friendly with big powers. And we feel that we are independent. If they do something wrong, we will criticize them. If they do something right, we will praise them. That is our policy. And although we were sometimes a bit obnoxious, we say nasty things to these very great powers, but it wasn't enough for them to invade us. But you have to be very careful about that. So the policy is to be friendly with everyone, and to criticize whether you are a big power or small power. If you do something wrong, we will criticize, because that would show that we are independent of outside influence, and we have survived so far. The Cold War has not affected us.
Yes, may I salute you by saying Assalamu alaikum and hail to the chief. My question could be a philosophical question. Where does the Islamic nation, taking the title of your lecture in consideration, where does the Islamic nation stands from the New World Order nation? And this follow-up question, I need your perspective on the spider web. How could be the spider web the most vulnerable structure as mentioned in the Quran? If you have any perspective on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are all Muslims, well, we profess to be Muslim, but we don't always follow the teachings of Islam. I'm not a student of religion, but I spend a lot of time reading the Quran in a language I understand. If I read it in Arabic, which I completed when I was young, but I couldn't understand what's in the Quran, so it couldn't serve as a guide to me. But when I read it in English or in Malay, then I understand the contents of the Quran. And I find that if you follow the Quran, you should succeed. You will not fail, but we don't. Let's take Iqra, for example, read. Well, when you read, you acquire knowledge. This is the first message that was received by the Prophet. Obviously, the Prophet could not find anything written on Islam at that time, because he was the only one who received this message. How could he read when there is no writing on Islam? So when he is asked to read, he should read whatever is available. And the early Muslims studied the Greeks, studied the Indians, the Chinese, and the other civilizations of that time, and they acquired so much knowledge. Later on, of course, they developed and increased the knowledge that they have learned from all these people, so that at one time, Arabic became the language of knowledge. But unfortunately, around the 15th century, somebody made a fatwa that if you read about science and geography, you get nothing. You get no merit for the afterlife. Only if you study the religion, you will go to heaven. I think it is wrong, because when you read about science and math, you increase your knowledge, and knowledge is needed to defend yourself. If you want to go by the hadith and say you follow what the Prophet did, he advocated war horses and bows and arrows and all that. That was adequate for his time. But today, you need to have warships, you need to have airplanes, you need to have battleships, we need to have tanks. You can only have these things if you have knowledge of science. If you have knowledge of science, then you are preparing to defend the Ummah, which is what the Quran asks you to do. That is just one example, but there are many things that we do which is not in accordance with what is taught in Islam. We are Muslims, we are brothers. All Muslims are brothers. But do we behave like brothers? We kill each other. Is that the way brothers should behave? So we are not following the teachings of Islam. That is why we fail. Actually, the Muslims should be the best educated people in the world with the best value system and understanding that the Quran wants you to succeed in life. Other religions are religion, faith, but Islam is a deen, a way of life. A way of life cannot just say, you read the Quran for 24 hours a day. You have to plant paddy, you have to plant wheat, you have to do a lot of things to live. And that is the way of life that you should have. And you should have that ability, capability, skill to provide for yourself, for your everyday needs, as well as for the defense of the Ummah. Today, we are servants of others because we don't have the knowledge. That is because we read the Quran only in order to get married, but not to learn. Thank you.
My name is Suhair Al-Ali. I'm a banker and a former Minister of Planning. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you so much for your enlightening speech. You described so eloquently the inclusive political process that you went through. You described the pursuit for perfection, the change of the value system, looking East policy, the Vision 2020, and you were truly behind the rise of a nation, a very fitting description for this session. However, sir, since you left, and maybe since the financial crisis of 2008, things have changed. And that plan of an industrialized nation where there's growth, significant growth, has changed. We see increased unemployment, we see increased social and ethnic rifts now in Malaysia. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we also see a return of that grease that you worked on eliminating, that you described. And that grease is worth $700 million from the allegations against the current Prime Minister. So my question to you, to cut a long story short, is if you were asked as to what you would do right now to get Malaysia back on track, what would be those steps? Thank you.
If I can, but at the moment I cannot, because all legal means of redress has been shut in Malaysia. Because the Prime Minister himself is guilty of using money, acquiring money illegally. We want to act against him, but now he has shut down all the systems we put in place to protect the country from people who are greedy and get involved with corruption. So if I can, I would like to get a new Prime Minister. And if I get a new Prime Minister, I want to make sure that he is not greedy, that he does not believe in money. Now this Prime Minister today, I'm sorry to say this, I have my ambassador here, I don't like to hurt his feelings, yeah, but he believes that cash is king, meaning to say that if you give money to people, they will support you. I told him, no, it doesn't happen that way. You shouldn't use money to win over the support of the people. You should serve them, do what they like you to do. But he believes in cash is king, so he has to have money, a lot of money, and he doesn't have the money. Well, he uses illegal ways of acquiring the money. So leadership is also very important for the development of a country. The leader must be honest. You are given power and authority not for your enjoyment. It is for you to enable you to serve the people and the country. And the payment for that, in the end, is whether you achieve or not. The satisfaction comes from seeing that what you set out to do, you have done.
But sir, a follow-up question. What would the economic policies be of a new Prime Minister to get Malaysia back on track?
Well, I will answer that. The economic policy was not wrong. It was all about industrializing the country, increasing the capacity of the people, better education. All these things must be done and focus on that. The country needs infrastructure, not raising money to win election. The money should be used to build good infrastructure for the country. Yes. That in itself will contribute to development. For example, when we built the North-South Highway, 800 kilometers of expressway, all along the road, new towns grew up, new industrial parks grew up, new settlements, lots of development take place simply because you have improved the communication. So if you do good infrastructure, the country will grow.
We will take a question from that side. Please, تفضلي. Please mention your name.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Reem Abu Hassan, I'm the Minister of Social Development. Welcome, sir, to Jordan. My question is, in your lecture on the rise of the nation, you talked about economic stability. However, a major component, I believe, in the success of Malaysia was the political component. The idea of incorporating Article 153 or 157, whereby guaranteeing the rights of the indigenous people of Malaysia, especially the Malay, was a major component in the success and in the development of Malaysia. Because as you said, sir, Malay form the largest group in Malaysia. They are the people of Malaysia, and therefore a special plan, special measures were made, as far as I understand, were made in order to help Malay develop, for the country to develop. So if you can, sir, elaborate on that a bit further, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know so much about our constitution, Article 153, 157 and all that. So I have to be very careful about answering you. Well, it is true that economic stability is important. When you see great disparities between rich and poor, there's bound to be conflicts. Even if it is a single race, single religion. But if there are poor people, majority, and rich people who are extremely rich, it becomes unstable. So we need to correct that. But when the poor belongs to one race and the rich another race, the tendency towards conflict is even greater. So we cannot change the race, but we can change the economic performance of the poor people. And to do that, we did a lot of things. We gave a lot of scholarships for them to gain a good education. We created opportunities for them. We trained them in business and in industries, etc. And very quickly, they can now start their own business. Women, for example, poor women who used to make some batik clothing are now millionaires because they have acquired the skills to manage mass production of things, and they are making a lot of money. They're also making a lot of money in cosmetics and in producing the specialized Malay textile. So when you train people, you give them an opportunity and you support them with a little fund. We have micro microcapitalism. This one we give to especially the women. I must admit that women are more honest than men. Sorry. They pay. They pay the money that they borrow, they pay, they work hard.
Yes, 100%.
They will pay. So it pays for us to help the women if they have some small project. So these are the things we did to raise the economic achievements and wealth of the indigenous people so that the disparity between them and the rich, between the Malays and the Chinese is not so great. And that has contributed much towards no race riots in Malaysia other than in 1969. Thank you.
There are so many questions. We're going to try to take a question from here, and then, تفضل. We have so many questions.
My name is Azmi Zorba. Good evening. Thanks to Shuman Corporation for inviting the esteemed and distinguished guest, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. We are very much pleased to see you in Jordan. Doctor, you have been here for 3 times as far as I know. I presume that you know a lot about Jordan economy. Is there any certain recipe or formula, economic formula, which you may suggest for Jordan? Thank you.
Thank you. After 3 visits to Jordan, I cannot know as much about Jordan as the people living here. You are living here, you know a lot about Jordan. And if you look around you, there are resources which can be exploited. You already focus on tourism, for example, but you have a lot of people. As I told you just now, we had 70% unemployment at the beginning. We need to create jobs for them. We ourselves have no capital to start any business. So we invited foreigners to come and start industries which are labor intensive. I think if you allow people to be jobless, you are causing trouble. So we must help them to help themselves. And that is by maybe opening the country to foreign investments. There's lots of money floating around. They should be attracted to come here and develop. And among the things that can be developed here, I'm quite sure is desalination of water, more electricity. You have a lot of sunshine. It's going to waste. What about solar energy? Things like that can... So I'm not giving you a recipe. I'm just suggesting maybe you can study this. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Miss.
May I take the opportunity on behalf of all of you, or on behalf of those who accept that I speak on behalf of all of you, to express my deep gratitude to my elder brother, if I may call you, Siri Mehatiir ibn Muhammad. We have had the opportunity of meeting many times over the years, and one of the last times we met, I recall, was in Islamabad when we were both given an honorary degree. And although we were talking about Islam and the future, the fact that they placed turbans on our respective heads made me, certainly, I never discussed it with my distinguished brother and colleague, feel somewhat anachronistic. Islam is not about appearances. إن الله ينظر إلى قلوبكم لا ينظر إلى أشكالكم. And I would like to say that whoever took us off on the path of the Ankabut might like to remember that what we are trying to do here is to network with each other in an Asian context, because we also come from Asia, believe it or not. From a Malaysian perspective, we're not the Middle East, we're the Middle West. But in terms of listening to a Malaysian, to an Indonesian, it is so, so refreshing, for me at least, because we are not listening in the usual manner to the former colonial master or the current vested interest peddler. So if we're going to learn by analogy in Muslim terms, let us network like the Ankabut. And if I may say also to the gentleman who asked about the Cold War, were Muslims not used in the Cold War in Afghanistan? Were Sunnis in particular not used in Afghanistan? Did the sequence, the genome sequence of resistance fighters not start in Afghanistan, so that today we are told we are Sunnis and Shia, not one Islam? I was saying to you, sir, earlier today that I was asked by an American once, "Are you a sunny Muslim?" I said, "No, I'm a cloudy Muslim." So any of you who believes he has 20/20 vision in Islam, please stand up and be recognized. We would love to hear from you. Not today, though. Thank you very much. I hope and pray that the day will come when we will begin to look east, that we will begin to learn from each other and to partner with each other. Yes, our women may be more honest, but they're also more forthright. I didn't want you from this podium to express your views on what is happening at home any more than I wanted you to tell us what we should know. أهل مكة أدرى بشعابها. آداب المجلس تحتوي أشياء كثيرة. And in that context, let me just say, let us always put the text into the context. Anyway, I stood up here to say thank you very much, dear brother, madam, for giving us this great privilege of being with us here today. Thank you, the Schumann Foundation, Sabih. Thank you, dear moderator. I don't know whether you accept that I do this unconventional thing of walking out because I have another commitment. I have a working commitment, and I'm sure you do too. And apart from anything else, I may be a few years younger than you, and I don't know how you found the stamina to stand up here and give us such a feast. So thank you very much. And I want you all to stand up and give a standing ovation to Mehaatir ibn Muhammad.
نحب نشكر سيدي حسن على كلمته، بس رح نرجع ناخذ بس أكم من سؤال، وأنا شايفة كثير إيدين مرفوعين. نحاول إنه نستعجل بالأسئلة، ما رح نقدر ناخذ كل الأسئلة. يعني الساعة صارت 7:30 وأكيد ضيف أعطانا كلمة طويلة وبدنا نعطيه شوية راحة. رح أبلش أخذ سؤال من هون. تفضل لي وقفت. Some more questions, is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody's telling me to stop the questions, but I want more. I'm selfish.
Okay.
تفضل بس بليز تحكي تعطينا اسمك إذا ممكن.
أنا دكتور بستاني. Your Excellency, many thanks for being with us this evening. Congratulations for the great achievements of your country. Perhaps one of the main reasons for these achievements is the fact that Malaysia at the moment has got no enemies. Jordan and the Arab Orient has got a vicious enemy since 1948, committed more than 6 wars against the neighboring Arab countries. Instability in this part of the world, unfortunately, continue to exist until now. My question, how we should face this situation, sir? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It is wrong to say that Malaysia had no enemies. There was a confrontation with Indonesia upon our achieving independence. The Indonesian even dropped paratroopers in Malaysia, and there was a little war with them. But we realized, at least Malaysia realized, that this kind of war is not helping them, it's not helping us. They must know that they cannot conquer us, and we must know that we cannot defeat them, and the war will continue, damaging both countries. So because of the instability of the region, other countries in the region decided that in order to avoid war, we should form a regional organization. And that's how ASEAN began. It began with 5 countries decided that they should form a forum where all differences would be resolved around the table and not through confrontations and wars. Fortunately, the leaders were very sensible people, and they thought that they needed stability and peace if they are going to develop their country beyond what the colonialists had done. We must show the colonialists that we can do better than them when we run our country. So ASEAN was formed. Now ASEAN has got 10 members, all the countries of Southeast Asia. It's not an economic bloc as somebody thinks it is something like the European Union. It was a coming together of neighboring countries wishing to avoid confrontations and wars between each other. If there is a problem, we will resolve the problem without going through war. Malaysia is in the center of this ASEAN region. We had problems with Indonesia, we had problems with Thailand, we had problems with Singapore, with Brunei, with the Philippines. But we decided to solve these problems in a way that does not damage any of us. And that meant only 3 things. Either resolve the problem through negotiation, or through arbitration, or through a court of law. We tried negotiation, took us, I wasn't successful even. For 20 years, I tried to talk to all these leaders, I failed. But my predecessor managed to settle with the Thais, who claim a piece of the sea at our border as belonging to them. We said it is ours. So the 2 prime ministers decided we will divide 50-50 whatever is produced from that sea. And today we are producing gas from that sea, and we get 50% of the gas. Thailand has got 50% of the gas, no war. Nobody was killed, no damage to anything. That is the problem with Thailand. With Indonesia, they claim 2 of the most beautiful islands in the world as theirs. We said it was ours. We talked and tried to settle this, and until eventually we decided we'll go to the World Court. To go to the World Court, both sides must agree that whatever findings are made by the World Court must be accepted without question. And so we went to the World Court with Indonesia. The World Court very wisely gave the islands to us. Of course, Indonesia is not very happy, but they had decided to accept the decision of the World Court. Then we had a rock in the sea, which is claimed by Malaysia, but it's also claimed by Singapore, just a rock. They built a lighthouse there, and they say it is theirs. We said, no, you are asked to administer the lighthouse, not the rock. And after a long consultation, negotiation, etc., we decided again to go to the World Court. But this time the World Court is not so wise. They gave the rock to Singapore. But what could we do? We have already agreed to accept whatever decision was made. Again, no war. The matter is settled. So that, I think, is the way we should settle problems, like civilized people. I am against war. I lead a movement that wants to make war a crime. You kill one person, you are accused of murder, and they will hang you for murdering some person. You kill 1 million persons, they will give you medals, erect statues for you, and call you a hero. I think there's something wrong with our thinking. You kill one person, it's a crime. You kill 1 million, it's glorious. I think something must be wrong with our thinking. Actually, if one person is a crime, you kill a million is a bigger crime, and the person who directed the war should be fought not in defense and aggressive war. That man is a criminal. So we tried Bush and Blair and found them guilty of criminal act against humanity. We can't do anything about that, but we have done that. So I think to solve problem by wars is very stupid and uncivilized. I think it's only primitive people who should go to war. Civilized people like us should not go to war. Thank you.
Okay. We'll take a question from that lady standing there.
Hello, welcome to Jordan. First of all, my name is Manar from Optimal for Consultation. I have a very small question, but I don't know what would be the answer, 1 day or 2 hours. Rise of nation needs stable economic situation, as you know, and this should not be the responsible for government only. As you see, in Jordan, we have a suffering area with the refugees and hot areas around the country. What do you think the best strategy for private sector to be effective parts in rise of nations to stay and to sustain in the market?
Well, I don't know whether I can provide an answer, but as I said before, every country has got some assets. The question is how we use the assets. So you have to identify these assets that you have. The people of Jordan are well known for their education. They are very well educated, very skillful. It's a small country, but with a fairly big population compared to the Gulf states. So if you have a big population, that can be your assets too. Even if you have a lot of desert, that too can be an asset. So it is in the situation where you are about the only stable country in the region, there are things that you can do which others cannot do, which others have ceased to do, because they are fighting, they are unstable, so they cannot do. If they cannot do, can you do it here? If you study, you may come across something that you can do here now because the others are not able to do. So I can't give a specific recipe for this, because you need to study a lot of things in Jordan, the assets that you have, the people, the culture, before you can determine how you can make use of this economic stability that you have achieved in this country to help you grow and become better developed. Thank you.
Thank you. There are so many questions and hands. I have to apologize from all of you. We have taken more than we can take questions. I want to thank you, and I want you to stand with me to thank His Excellency for all his questions and the answers and his amazing speech. Thank you, Your Excellency.